Man, oh man. Good morning. Happy Monday to all of you. It's Easter week. That means it's a 4-day work week for, well, me. And hopefully you too. CJ Nasello, it's our daily show right here on RiverBender.com, and we got a good one for you. Coming up in just a couple of minutes, we're going to be talking to Dr. Dennis Sands, and he's the Chief Medical Officer with OSF Healthcare to discuss cervical cancer. And we're going to cover, really just all the ways that we can gather that information, prevention, and just raise some overall awareness for such a terrible, terrible thing. And then at 10:35, Sheila joins us, and we're going to be joined also by Chuck Fraser. They've been coming on the show for their free spiritual wellness series, and it offers insights into their mission and the next installment, which is coming up in just a few short days, and we're going to get all the details too. I hope you guys had a great weekend. But before I do my news, man, I'm getting old. Like, recovery times are really starting to catch up to me. I feel like for a while, I could just kind of, stay out till 4 a.m. and then go up and work again. Now I just can't do any of that no more. Day 2, and I'm still feeling a little bit rough, but that's okay. Top of the hour news now. Here's what you need to know. You can join myself and 70,000 people that are in the know each and every day of the work week and on Saturdays with that daily email update. We do have an update for you on this fatal two-vehicle crash. Authorities are investigating a serious two-vehicle crash that occurred at the intersection of Illinois 159 and Rincon Road on the 7th of April. A 22-year-old female driver from Collinsville was westbound on Rincon when her black Buick was struck on the passenger side by a southbound white GMC truck driven by a 39-year-old male from Dorsey. The Buick driver suffered serious injuries and was flown to a regional hospital, while a 21-year-old male passenger was pronounced deceased at the scene. And that takes us to our next news story. Jimmy Militello, a 21-year-old Godfrey resident known for his warmth and kindness, tragically lost his life in that car accident on April the 7th. The Godfrey Meat Market, where he was a cherished employee, closed at noon on the 12th of April to honor his memory. Ian Warford, a representative from the market, praised Militello, stating he embodied a good soul and was deeply loved by all. Described as a proud big brother, James was remembered fondly by family and friends who expressed their shock and grief. And RiverBender.com issues our heartfelt condolences as well. Also in the news today, on March the 21st, the Calhoun County Sheriff's Office responded to a disturbance and property damage incident at a residence on High Street in Campsville. Following a thorough investigation, which included collecting evidence and interviewing witnesses, authorities arrested 54-year-old Lori A. Ross. She faces charges of disorderly conduct for making 2 false reports to 911. Ross taken into custody without incident and later released with a notice to appear at the Calhoun County Courthouse. All suspects considered innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. In a recent operation by the Jersey County Sheriff's Office and Alton Police, Tony K. Price, 48, was arrested after leading officers on a high-speed chase on April the 8th. The pursuit began when Price failed to stop for a traffic violation and ended when he fled on foot. After abandoning his vehicle in that field, authorities recovered over an ounce of crystal methamphetamine during the search. Price faces serious charges, including methamphetamine trafficking, and could face 12 to 60 years in prison. He remains in custody at the Jersey County Jail, presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Couple of more stories for you today. Firefighters did respond to a structure fire early Saturday morning in the 500th block of State Street in Wood River. Upon arrival, the Wood River Fire Department encountered heavy smoke coming from the residence. A box alarm was then requested, leading to assistance from neighboring departments. Fire Chief Wade Stallhut commended the quick response, stating that mutual aid was crucial in tackling this blaze, which originated in a bedroom and spread to 2 additional rooms and the attic. One occupant evacuated but required treatment for smoke inhalation. The cause of the fire currently under investigation. Running all week long, the Alton First Responders Spring Fest, inviting the region to enjoy a carnival while supporting local first responders. You heard it on the show on Friday. Opening on April the 11th, it's been running all weekend, and it runs through April the 19th. The event features rides, food, and entertainment at the Alton Amphitheater. A portion of ticket sales will benefit Alton's first responders and related organizations. Organizers hope this inaugural Spring Fest becomes an annual tradition. The carnival operates on weekdays from 5 to 10 p.m. p.m. with special hours on weekends. Attendees can also look forward to a free concert by the NGK Blues Band on the final day. The iMerge Community Center, located in the Riverbender building where I'm sitting, has officially closed. Director Bridget Holt expressed gratitude for the community's support, highlighting the center's role for its vital space for youth engagement. John Mueller, a co-owner of the building, aims to maintain the space as a community-focused venue for all ages. Holt announced that some equipment from their esports program will be donated to local nonprofits. Former operator John Hendrick laminated the closure in hopes for the emergence of a similar service to support Alton's youth. You can see a full write-up on that story on RiverBender.com /news. Let's look at weather. It's 62 degrees. Now it's 63, but who's counting? Feels like 65 out there today. Rather cloudy. It will be windy and cooler. Tonight, mainly clear and cooler. Breezy later on. Air quality right now is at 59, which is moderate. Grass levels are moderate as well. Mold is low. Ragweed's moderate, and tree levels are high today. That's why I'm taking my Claritins. So's the UV index. It's a little bit weird. Hey, temperatures will reach 63 degrees only today, so that's about it. They will drop down to 42 overnight as we head into Tuesday on tax day. I just want to thank everybody in the IRS office so much for my taxes. A high of 61, a low of 34 degrees. On Wednesday, partly cloudy skies, a high of 68, a low of 51. On Thursday, a high of 72, a low of 59 degrees. And on Friday, man, it'll be beautiful. A high of 80. Partly sunny skies and a low of 60 as we head into Easter weekend. On Thursday, there is a chance of scattered thunderstorms, so be mindful of that. But other than that, the week's looking pretty darn clear to me. Looks good out there. Hey, for time and temperature throughout the day, 618-465-4545. This time powered by Bounce Back. Rehab, recover, and return home. You can also stay up to date in real time all the time by going to RiverBender.com. Sorry, I had to grab my live read book. /weather. All righty. Before I take a break, I got to get to business because, Friday I'm not doing a show. I was going to come in and tape something, but you know what? It's Good Friday, and we just kind of all need a little bit of a rest every once in a while. So we're only going to be on Monday through Thursday this week. Oh, and then Saturday, no, I will be doing 5 shows because Saturday I'll be at Village Dispensary, and they're going to be having a huge celebration. It's their 1-year anniversary, a lot of giveaways, a lot of good stuff going on. We'll be live for a few hours and keep moving. So no show Friday, but on Saturday, I'll be over there with you guys over at Village Dispensary. With that being said, let me fill you in on our friends at OSF Healthcare because I truly think they are the best, and we're going to be talking to them in just a couple of minutes. You know what, OSF Healthcare, it's not just about, stopping into the doctor's office. It's not just about, making sure that you're getting taken care of every time you pick up the phone. They're actively working here in our community to support healthcare and all of us in a lot of different avenues. I mean, you look at Gordon Moore Park and you look at some of these other facilities, you see OSF prominently there because they're proud to be our neighbor. And what I think's so cool about this is the last couple of years, I mean, you've seen this revolution in healthcare here locally where you aren't driving 45 minutes, an hour and a half away to get some just simple work done. Remember when you had to drive to DePaul or you had to drive all the way down to Barnes? Not anymore. OSF is trying their best to bring it all right here into their own backyard. It doesn't just stop there. They have that prompt care office. I told you how great that one was. We went into urgent care, and urgent care told us, well, we'd have to come back in 5 hours. So I went right down the road to OSF's prompt care office. They treated my grandma just like they would have treated their own, and she was in and out. She was taken care of, feeling so much better, and it was just so much easier. OSF Healthcare does so much in the community, and I highly encourage you, if you're looking for that next primary care provider or you just want to learn a little bit more about all the great stuff that they're doing, you go to osfhealthcare.org. That's osfhealthcare.org, and you can find out more. We'll be talking to Dr. Sands in a couple of minutes on cervical cancer, and it's just segments like that, where we can raise awareness, we can learn a little bit more, and we can be mindful of that if we ever have to encounter it. So at 9:14, visit OSF Healthcare. Don't forget to tell them that I sent you over their way because I got to get paid. And we'll come back with them after a quick couple of minutes of commercials right here on our daily show on RiverBender.com.
Get access to care for anyone, anywhere, at any time. No appointments, no waiting rooms, no traveling. OSF on call.
Village Dispensary has the best deals in Godfrey, Illinois, with specials 5 days a week. Mondays, roll in the week with 20 to 30% off select pre-rolls. Tasty Tuesdays, enjoy 20 to 30% off select edibles. Waxy Wednesdays, enjoy 20 to 30% off select concentrate and vape brands. Thirsty Thursdays, sip and save with 20 to 30% off all drinks. Flower Friday, grab like 3.5 gram flower deals starting at just $20. Village Dispensary, come meet your best buds.
Picture This and More has been a trusted name in the Alton community for more than 30 years, with the last 3 being right here on Broadway. We specialize in quality framing at affordable prices. We also feature works by local artists because we're proud of our community. If you have valued treasures to display and preserve, we're sure to have the perfect fit with our large selection of custom framing and display options. Whatever color, shape, or size, Picture This and More has the look you need. Stop by today and let us help you with your next project.
Looking for the best barbecue in Madison County? Head over to Carver's Barbecue in Godfrey, Illinois. From loaded barbecue nachos to mouth-watering pulled pork, brisket, ribs, and more, Carver's serves up award-winning flavors you'll love. Family-owned, Carver's is all about fresh, made in-house dishes served daily. Come visit us at 2716 Groveland in Godfrey, or give us a call at 618-467-9999. Order online, get it catered, or stop by for the best smoked meats around. Where great flavors meet family tradition, you'll find Carver's Barbecue.
You're listening to Our Daily Show with CJ Nasello on RiverBender.com.
Welcome back to Our Daily Show. The time is 9:18 on this Monday morning. And a great conversation comes our way with OSF Healthcare. Dr. Dennis Sands is Chief Medical Officer. And Doctor, thank you so much for joining us on the Zoom call today, and really excited to get your insights on just such a very awful disease. Can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep, I got you here now. And Dr. Sands, thanks for joining us. And you know, it's always a great time to raise awareness and insights, especially when we're talking about something like cervical cancer. And Doctor, as we start this conversation off today, let's just give, if we could, an overview of what cervical cancer exactly is.
Yeah, good question. So essentially what we found is, years ago that most of the cervical cancers are caused by a virus. Called the human papilloma virus, or HP, P as in Paul, V as in Victor, HPV virus. And so we found that that is the main etiology for these. And one of the great things about, finding that or making that discovery is that we're able to, just simply do a pap smear, which is a screening test. And now we have a super sensitive way to do that. So they can be done less frequently. That will actually detect that virus. And therefore it is much more sensitive and specific for the virus, and able to actually catch it and find it and treat it very early while you just have a precancerous condition, or as we call it, a dysplasia or dysplastic position. So the great thing is if people just get their PAPs like they need to, then they're able to catch the precursor lesions, which are caused by the HPV virus, and then we're able to treat them before they actually ever develop cervical cancer.
Well, and it just seems like, doctor, that going in and going and getting those regular screenings is vitally important. And I also saw something, and would love your insights on this, that women between the ages of 35 to 44 are most likely to receive this diagnosis.
Right. Yeah, that's actually the group where we'll see it the most. And, we see about 14,000 cases of cervical cancer in women per year. So it's very real. That being said, we've done quite a bit better in the United States over the last few years with people actually getting their pap smears more frequently.
Mhm.
And then also with the advent of the HPV vaccine, which will prevent that virus from getting into the person, or onto their cervix in most cases, or wipe it out quickly. And then that has reduced the cervical cancer rates for young women who get the HPV vaccine. It'll be beneficial or protective for about 90% of those HPV viruses that are out there.
Well, and that's where I find this so fascinating right now in this point in the conversation, is the fact that a lot of this, just from what I read, a little bit of what Randy sent over, just highly treatable in those early stages. And I'm sure years ago, before maybe this was so commonplace, it's amazing to me to see just the evolution of healthcare, really, doctor, and how preventable maintenance can truly go so much further in your life than you think about it.
Yeah, this is actually one of those kind of breakthrough stories in medicine, right? Where they found years ago, they're like, what causes cervical cancer? And we've now actually, elucidated that, most are caused by this human papilloma virus, or HPV virus. And the beauty of that is you can catch it early, therefore you can treat it early and prevent, the actual development of cervical cancer. And likewise, with the HPV vaccine, you probably have heard, listeners have probably heard the term, Gardasil is one of the vaccines. And with that, you're able to, inoculate people and prevent the, acquisition of the virus, or, growth of the virus in, a lot of cases, and therefore prevent that progression of ever occurring, into cervical cancer. So pretty neat stuff. When you look at basic sciences, this is one of those success stories. We hear a lot about those things we're still studying. We haven't quite figured it out yet, but this is actually one of those real interesting ones where immunology and molecular biology, have paid off.
Well, and honestly, it's really fascinating just to hear that evolution, just from, someone who doesn't study medicine, to see, how far we've come on some of these things. And, for women out there that maybe don't understand the process, or, how these screenings work, what do they look like, and how early should we start screening for this?
Yeah, so years ago they used to say, you need to start at, age 18. What we've kind of found is that's a little too soon, especially for young women who are not sexually active. So we're really looking at 21 years of age, or when people become sexually active is the best time to start screening. The nice thing is, you can now screen every 3 to 5 years, depending on which screening modality you use. But if you use the super sensitive pap smears that we now have, which is actually a liquid-based medium, which is kind of cool. It actually looks for the virus that I was just talking about, and those different high-risk HPV types or subtypes it's actually looking for. We know there's basically about 100 of those that are the real nasty ones that can, get into a woman's cervix and put her at risk for later development of cervical cancer. So by just doing those screenings, if you do the dual screening, you do the PAP with the HPV a virus or molecular screen, and those are normal, you can actually just bump those out to every 5 years, which is pretty cool because women hate those exams anyway. Which we
Right.
understand. So the less frequent, the less, obviously often you need to do that, the better all the way around. But also in that technology is so super sensitive that it basically captures, almost everything. So that's, a far cry and a dramatic improvement from what we had many years ago, where we'd have, false positive rates of, 30, 40%, or false negative rates, I'm sorry, that high. And you would just really wonder, gee, how good is this screening modality?
Right. Well, and you said something a couple of seconds ago that really just stuck to me. Did you say there was like hundreds of different types of HPV?
Yeah, there are many different ones,
Wow.
and there's about 90 to 100 of the ones that we've identified that are kind of the main ones that we look out for. We know that, off the top of our heads that some of the main subtypes, 16, 18, 31, 33, 35, we just know them because we read them on the reports every day. But they're actually looking for a lot more of them.
Wow.
And they catch those, and they'll actually, one of the results is just, are there any high risk subtypes that we've detected? And that's, been a real benefit in medicine for us to be able to test for that.
Well, let's say someone does get their screening and it doesn't come back the best. What do those steps look like?
Yeah, so it's great that you got it done, because then you're going to detect it. So let's just say it is positive for one of the high risk types, and then we would say just follow up with your doctor, and they'll talk with you about that. And you may have to just undergo a simple like look at the cervix through a microscope, which is real easy to do, and that's called a colposcopy or colpo, COLPO. That just means looking at the cervix with a high-powered microscope. And then we're able to just put literally a vinegar, acetic acid on the cervix with just a big Q-tip. And if any of those areas light up through that little colposcope, which also has different lenses and magnifications on it and color filters, which allow us to see really well at a higher magnification, we're able then with that device to see, are there any areas on the colposcopy that need a biopsy or not? And then we would, if we need that, we would take a small biopsy, send that off. And then, of course, that's the definitive answer. The beauty of that is, though, with the molecular screening, the PAPs and the colposcopies, we're able to catch and treat these things before they ever develop into cervical cancer. You worry about the folks who don't get the screening done, because those are the ones that do sometimes come in with the cervical cancer, and they come in with bleeding or discharge or something. And when's the last time you saw your gynecologist? 10 years ago. And those are usually the bad stories.
Well, and I can only imagine, and I think it's just great for, us to kind of drive that point home, how important it is to go and get those screenings done regularly, when you're scheduled to do them. And I was wondering too, is there multiple types of cervical cancer?
There are actually. The two biggies are like a squamous cell carcinoma, and then an adenocarcinoma is about 10 to 20%, and the squamous, which are the cells on the surface of the cervix, those are the bulk, like 80 to 90%. So those are the ones that we see the most of. The adenocarcinomas are more kind of transitioning into the inside of the cervix and then go up, actually, kind of up towards the uterus itself. Cervix, as listeners probably know, is the lower part of the uterus, which is, at the apex or at the top of the vagina. So you can actually just see it on exam, which makes this, a good thing you can screen for and you can treat for before it actually gets too bad. But yeah, so about 10 to 20% are adenocarcinomas, and about 80, 90% are the squamous cell carcinomas that we tend to see more of.
And, with that being said, too, what are some of those, signs and symptoms maybe look like? Just because you hit on a few, and I just, in case there's a little bit more to that, is there, been some pretty common symptoms that folks have that you kind of know lines up to what possibly could be a cervical cancer diagnosis?
Yeah, good question. So symptoms would be things like, bleeding out of nowhere, like vaginal bleeding that's not at the time of the menstrual flow, or a vaginal discharge. Certainly it could be a sign that wasn't there, especially if you haven't had a PAP in over 5 years. Discharges that weren't there or are new. Pain with intercourse, could be obviously a problem or something to look for. Or postcoital or, after intercourse type bleeding can certainly, be a warning sign. The biggest thing I think, we always try to tell people is just be sure you've had a PAP in the past few years. It's those folks that have not that are the ones that are at high risk, and that we'll sometimes see come in with some of these signs we're discussing right now, the bleeding, the discharge, the pain after intercourse, and, things along those lines.
And, when it comes to, some of the complications of cervical cancer too, doctor, what do some of those start to look like? Like when it comes to like, oh, sorry, like, like kidney issues, or is there any other ailments that are attributed to a cervical cancer?
Yeah, I mean, once it gets progressive, it can actually start to grow, into the inner part of the cervix, and it can start to grow into the uterus itself. People could feel pressure on their bladder or lower abdominal pain. By then, it's pretty advanced. You might need radiation to treat those. But still, they're having some incredible results with chemo and radiation, even for advanced cases. And so, those are some of the symptoms. If it becomes even more advanced, the tubes that come out of the kidneys, which are the ureters, are only about, that then go right into the bladder, pretty close to where the cervix actually lives. Those are only about 2 centimeters from the cervix itself.
Wow.
Which is really problematic, because then if the cervical cancer started to spread laterally, it can actually encroach and get into that space where the ureters are, which could back up and kind of close off that ureter, which is called hydronephrosis, which could ultimately cause kidney damage, because then the kidney can't drain. So these things can get really serious, if you don't treat them or catch them. And, it's just so sad when that happens, because really all those patients needed to do, or those women needed to do, is keep up, with routine screening for pap smears.
Well, and that's where I keep going back to that first part of our conversation, but it's incredible to me that this is, like you said, something that, science has actually, found. It's not a debate, and it's just really interesting to hear, how this is, really progressed when it comes to treatment, and now these new types of screenings and ways that you can really prevent this and take care of yourself. And when it comes to treatment on cervical cancer, what does that normally look like? Because I'm sure there's various stages of this, but what does that kind of, baseline kind of start at when it comes to tackling this?
Yeah, so really you just want to look at, your standard kind of tumor markers or discussion, what's the stage, of it. So, what kind of a tumor is it? What's the cellular type? Like we were just talking about squamous cells versus adenocarcinoma, or those are the columnar type cells. They're actually the shape of a column, hence the term columnar.
Wow.
Is it squamous? Is it columnar? Are there any nodes, lymph nodes involved? What's the size of the tumor? How big or small is it? And then, we always refer to the, metastases, or M. So you'll hear us refer to, TNM, tumor type, tumor size, and, nodes, lymph nodes, a positive or negative, and then the M for any, metastases, any place else in the body. And obviously those are the most severe when those occur. There's been some new literature. It's kind of interesting looking at, tumors, particularly of the endometrium, the upper part of the uterus, which are, some of that methodology is actually changing and becoming more specific for the way the tumors behave.
Wow.
So even just the whole development and growth in the knowledge of oncology and cancers in general is always growing, is always, developing by leaps and bounds.
Well, and see, I think that's a fascinating follow-up too, because, how do you guys stay up to date on all of these new developments? Because I'm sure in your field, these change almost constantly, I would imagine.
Yeah, they do. It's generally not, you don't typically see things change every year.
Right.
Some do, but so we're obviously required, being board certified in obstetrics and gynecology, to keep up on the continuing medical education to maintain our board certifications. We actually have to take, tests for those, or small exams or proficiency exams. And then every 6 years, you'd be required, if you didn't get like above a 90 or 95% on those tests, you'd be required to take another like 3-hour exam to maintain your board certification. So to answer your question, the American Board of Obstetrics and Gynecology keeps you on your feet to be sure you're keeping abreast and reading, of all the changes, which is why, there's so many different types of doctors, right? You can only keep up with your own specialty while you're practicing and working and taking call, and while you're trying to read and keep up with the latest changes and developments.
Well, and it's just, really interesting to note that too, and just see that, what goes on behind the scenes after we're maybe, after our appointment's done with you. So it's really just fascinating. And Doctor, when it comes to pregnancies with cervical cancers or, HPV, what does that look like down the road? Because, when I see the 35 to 44 range, some of those folks, especially in their mid-30s, that could be the time where they're thinking about that future. What complications go into that?
Yes, obviously, if they're doing their screenings and everything, then you would have caught it early. You would have treated it, and you always get a routine Pap smear with new obstetric appointments. You always verify that that's up to date, so we would catch that. You always do an exam, so we would catch that. But I guess it sounds like your question is, what if they had a cervical cancer and they were pregnant? And most of the time, if those are early, they'll have a big discussion with their physician. We probably, typically have them see the GYN oncologist, which is a subspecialist, as well as then they would be considered a high-risk OB or high-risk pregnancy. So then we'd have them see a maternal fetal medicine specialist. We actually partner with SSM, St. Louis University, on those. It's St. Mary's in Clayton. And, then they would determine, is this low risk enough right now or early enough that we can let the pregnancy continue? Or is it one of those, really dramatic or very sad cases where the risk is just too great to the mom, depending on how far along they are? And then some, real deep kind of critical conversations need to be had on, what are the risks and odds of continuing those pregnancies. So you see, it gets pretty difficult in those situations. And thank goodness they're rare. They're very rare that we would see those because, women are keeping up as they've seen the gravity of this. They are keeping up with their PAPs and annual screenings in most cases.
Well, and honestly, that's at least, where you're seeing that trend where they are keeping up with it. And here locally and with OSF, what are you guys encountering when it comes to cervical cancer just here locally? What are you seeing?
Yeah, we do see it, unfortunately. We do see cervical cancer usually presents with bleeding or a first visit of a patient that hasn't seen a doctor, had a Pap smear in 5 to 10 years. So we see the standard kind of presentation, that you and I were talking about just a little bit earlier. And it's sad, right? It's very sad. And because then you're kind of trying to play catch up on those folks. Where if you could have caught it early, perhaps the outcome might have been better. That being said, with early grade cancers, like the stage 1s, sometimes you can just treat those with a radical hysterectomy or radiation and, chemo radiation, and you can have really good outcomes with those. As they get more advanced, like, stage 3s and 4s, that's where the, risk of recurrence goes up. And the risk of cure, goes down. So obviously early stage, like 1 and 2, have a much more favorable prognosis.
And, just a quick follow-up to that, too, because we were talking about that age range. Are you seeing that? Is that matching what you guys are kind of encountering? If you do at OSF, is that 34 to 45 kind of what you're seeing more prominence in, or is it a different age range for you?
No, that's it pretty much. Yeah,
Wow.
we're seeing that 35 to 44, 35 to 45 tends to be when you kind of see those. Interestingly enough, 30 and under 30, the immune system in the body is actually incredibly strong. And most of those HPV viruses that you might have previously detected on a Pap smear that are the low grade kind of viruses, they haven't grown into the high grade, which is actually a cervical cancer precursor. A lot of those low grade ones in women 30 and under, their immune system will defeat that virus and just wipe it out completely.
Wow.
So you really start to get higher risk. You start to see that once you get beyond 30 years of age.
That's very interesting. I would never have suspected that. Is it just, and I know we're talking cervical cancer here, but is it just women specific for 30 and under, or is that across the board for bodies?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is just with cervical cancer.
Okay, that's what I wanted to add. Okay.
Yes, I can't speak to others. But certainly, any kinds of risky behaviors like multiple partners, early age at first intercourse, so less than 18, that puts you at higher risk for cervical cancer. Multiple partners is always bad because then that virus might be with a new partner, that HPV virus, and then they're transferring it to the woman, which is obviously bad. So you want to stay with one partner as much as you can, or obviously you want to practice safe sex or have protected intercourse. Those things are all, risk factors if you don't do that. Also, smoking is a big risk factor for cervical cancer. Yeah. So there's certain things you just want to be cognizant of, to decrease your risks overall.
Absolutely. And with that being said, I know that OSF does so much when it comes to, screenings and raising awareness for this. But what's the best way for somebody that maybe, is younger out there, maybe in their mid-30s, and they have not even thought about this yet? What's that first step? Is it finding, let's say they have their primary care or they don't, is it going to OSF's website to see if there are any primary care providers around, or how do those screenings work?
Yeah, you could do that. Go to our website. There's a great, site there. We have, physicians and nurse practitioners, both male and female. So a patient could pick who they're comfortable with, which is really great, in today's environment. And they're able also to, get appointments there through My Chart if they're already an established patient, say maybe with another doctor here at OSF. Or they could call, our number, the 618-462-2222 number, and just make an appointment. But those are all ways to reach out to us. But we're real fortunate. I work with I'm obviously board certified OB-GYN doc. I work with an incredible nurse practitioner, Dina Brown. A lot of our other docs and nurse practitioners are female, and also do annual women's health exams and pap smears. So we're able to get people in. All they got to do is reach out to us.
And, Dr. Sands, thank you so much for your time. I know that your day was pretty full, and I really appreciate getting some insights and awareness just on cervical cancer today, and would love to have you back on the show whenever you're available.
Sounds great. No, I appreciate your time.
No problem. And we'll take a quick pause here, right here in downtown Alton. We'll come back with more Daily Show. 9:41, little bit of change back after this.
Bad company, and I can deny. Bad company, till the day I die. Till the day I die.
Welcome back. Daily Show hitting you in the nose on a Monday morning. So, I got to tell you something that happened before I hit this little break. You got to get this off my chest. Last night, I'm driving home, okay? There's by the way, if you're thinking about drinking and driving right now in Madison County, do not do it. There's so many, we give you the report on the show. I gave it to you for the news. newscast, and we told you that roadside safety checks were going to happen, and boy, they are happening. So just telling you, not even worth it. Do not do it. I'm so glad I didn't drink. Anyway, with that being yesterday, Saturday is a whole different story, but I did not drive. So with that being said, I'm driving home, okay, and all of a sudden, by the way, yesterday's wind could have put me on 270. I weighed like 150 pounds. I had to put a cement bag on my shoes just so I didn't blow away. You know what I'm saying? So you got this wind gust, okay? It's pitch black outside. You're driving 255, which has about as much lights as a basement does without one. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, we're driving. And I don't know. If you can't drive a camper, just don't. You cannot drive 90 miles an hour or 80 in a camper, hauling a truck, and you're swerving back and forth in between lanes. You know, just because you're having a rough time driving doesn't mean that you got to run me off into a damn ravine almost. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not trying to complain, but I'm just saying, just take into account, okay, you're hauling not one, two, you're hauling 3 vehicles, okay? Literally 80 miles an hour. Okay, in the left lane with wind gusts. Not smart, okay? And, you know, for the first time, I feel like I was kind of calm. You know, because normally I'm a yeller, and I'm just kind of not been yelling too much anymore. Anyway, if that was you driving that camper, seriously slow down before you hurt yourself, because that was not fun to watch yesterday. Kind of alarming. With that being said, what are you guys' plans for Mother's Day? I know that it's, April the 14th, and you're going to go, CJ, that's May. This year is flying the hell by. It is amazing to me that we're in April already. And with that being said, Grafton's having their sip, sample, and stroll coming down the pipeline on Mother's Day weekend. It's going to be the Saturday before Mother's Day. And what a great time to grab your loved one, your wife, whoever the mom is in your life, and go and have a good old time with it. So Mary joined us, and I want to make sure you heard this conversation and got some insights on it. And, go take your mom out somewhere nice on Mother's Day. Go take the mother in your life out somewhere nice on Mother's Day, and go into Grafton and stay at Aries. Have a good old time. 9:52, welcome back. Friday morning continues on RiverBender.com and Roku TV. Mary back in the studio, Secretary of the Grafton Chamber of Commerce. And coming up on May the 10th, returning favorite, Sip, Sample, and Stroll. And you guys have really built this sucker up.
I'm glad we added another business this year. This is our 5th annual Sip, Sample, Stroll, which kind of kicks off, along with our golf tournament, the season. In Grafton, we talk about the season.
Well, and it definitely is here. And now that season's becoming longer and longer, it looks like, because you all are doing so many great events outside of, the traditional spring, summer fun.
What's kind of really nice is several of our businesses step up and put together special things that is not Chamber of the City, just because those businesses see working together and putting on special things like an upcoming blues festival is good for the city and good for their business. So that's a real positive.
Well, 100%. And that's how you be more successful together, and you have those folks that are willing to volunteer their time and come together and do these really great things, not for just the community, but you guys are bringing in the region.
Well, I hope so. We always say, come to Alton and turn left.
I love it. That's pretty good.
That's pretty partisan, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's okay because it's your segment. So with that being said, the 5th annual coming up on May the 10th. It's 11 a.m. until 5:30 p.m. all throughout Grafton, correct?
Correct. 14 of our businesses that serve food and beverages, in other words, all of them, are participating.
That's really cool.
And it's an unusual event in that people have to buy a ticket to participate. Mm-hmm. The tickets are $30 and are available on GraftonILChamber.com. We do not sell tickets the day of the event because if businesses are going to serve you unique food and unique beverages, they have to order them. And just like if you're having company, you got to know how many are coming. Our businesses need to know that. So there aren't tickets sold that day. So you've got to right now get online and buy the tickets.
Well, and that's a great point to make too. And so fill me in for the folks that maybe haven't gotten a chance to go out there yet and they've been wanting to. What is Sip, Sample, and Stroll all about? And you talked about some of those personalized, dining options, but what can we experience?
Okay, when you come to Grafton with your ticket, there are 14 businesses ready to welcome you. And what they've prepared for you is a sample of their signature beverages and their signature food. So at different places, you might get different things. I've got a whole list. A couple. One's really intriguing me. If you go to Grafton Winery this year, you're going to get a turkey meatball shishito in a Spanish tomato sauce. And it'll be paired with the Grafton Winery seltzer. Man. So we get to try something different.
That sounds really good.
Doesn't that sound good? The oyster bar, again, is going to do jambalaya. Mm-hmm. You expect at the hog pit, you get smoked wings and hippie juice. But we also have places like Go-Go Maze, the local ice cream shop.
They're doing a lot of good stuff.
Who have food, and of course there will be a non-alcoholic beverage. Mm-hmm. So that meets another need. In fact, we've talked about that. Should we add that component? So
I think so. I think it's
think about.
I think it's a great component to add because, some people, it's, not everyone's, the drinker, and to have something that's, not the alcoholic option, the non-alcoholic beverage, that's great.
Right. So you come to City Hall with your receipt. We have a list. We give you a wristband. That wristband tells every one of those 14 businesses. And by the way, I don't know, is there a way you can hold this up?
Oh, we'll put that on the screen here in a second.
On every one of the participating businesses will be our logo, and you'll know that they have a sample and a beverage for you. You go in, and they'll give that to you. And so that it's that simple. Get your ticket, stop by City Hall, get your wristband, and start sipping and sampling and strolling throughout Grafton.
And what better time to? I mean, especially because from what my knowledge is, May the 11th is Mother's Day, correct?
I think so.
So why not go out and treat your mother to a great Saturday and then get a little bit of a jump start on it? I think that's the perfect plan right there.
I like how you think.
I'm telling you, I'm figuring it out on the fly here. And if you all see this logo, it's a little bit enlarged. I can't zoom out of it, but it is a beautiful logo. And who did that for you guys? Did you do that?
It was a group effort.
Wow.
Andy Jackson, who was our treasurer of our chamber, took the lead, but he had a lot of other people with expertise that helped put it together. And I think it kind of sums up Grafton with our lighthouse. Maybe we should have one man standing in there because we sure welcome all our male friends to come and sip and sample also.
I've done that a few times in Grafton, Mary.
You've done that, huh?
Well, and that's I really wanted to make sure because that will be the placate that what's in the window, correct?
That'll be in the window. So you go in and with your wristband, and they'll be glad to give that to you.
Well, and honestly, you guys will be glad you did this. $30 for all you can basically do in Grafton for a 4 or 5 hour stretch here.
Yes, our ticket place will be open for the registration place from 10. We'll get there a little early. The business is open at 11, so don't expect. But if you want to get there a little early, we'll be there to get you all set up, and we'll be there till 2. We figure that if you don't get there much before 2, it's really hard to go to 14 places.
I would say so. And honestly, just make it a relaxing day because when you have all that time just to kind of go in and out, and I mean, I hate to say this, but you might as well find a bed or Airbnb out there in Grafton and go ahead and find a hotel room too.
I'm so glad you said that because in Grafton, we're looking at food, beverage, retail, and lodging. And we have I think, 23, 24 at least B&Bs. We have extra rooms up at Aries. We have the Rubel Hotel. So there's plenty of time for you to come and spend the whole weekend.
Absolutely. You got a moment to take a break with me?
I do.
We're coming up to top of the hour here. It's 9:59 and a little bit of change in downtown Alton. You're watching Our Daily Show on Roku TV and RiverBender.com. We're talking Sip, Sample, and Stroll on May the 10th. We're also going to come back and talk a little bit more because music in the park is starting soon. The warmer weather's here, folks, and Grafton's here to make that experience better for you each and every day throughout the summer and really now throughout the year.
Oh no, another bad headache? Yeah. Maybe it's time to see your doctor.
OSF Healthcare can handle all of your family's primary care needs, including diagnosing health issues or referring you to a specialist. Schedule an appointment today.
No matter the season, Play It Again Sports in Edwardsville has the gear the athletes need to get in the game. Whether you're shopping for the newest sports equipment or saving money on quality used gear, Play It Again Sports carries what you need to maximize performance to get the most out of every swing, kick, stroke, or shot. We'll even buy your used goods, paying cash on the spot. We carry all the gear for all the sports all year long. We're your hometown sporting goods store. Play It Again Sports, conveniently located at 4 Club Center Court in Edwardsville.
Yo, what up? It's Mike Keith, the proud graduate of Lewis and Clark Community College. I got my start in broadcasting and now I work all over the country. I discovered my path in media, but I could have been an electrician. Or I could have been a nurse.
Maybe not.
Get paid to go solar.
We're not solar bros. At Grid, we're solar pros. We explain the process behind solar power so you can make an informed decision. We'll work with you to make owning your power as simple as possible and affordable with zero down financing and payment options. Our only goal is to save you money. Call Grid when you're ready to be independent of the power company.
Looking for the best barbecue in Madison County? Head over to Carver's Barbecue in Godfrey, Illinois. From loaded barbecue nachos to mouth-watering pulled pork, brisket, ribs, and more, Carver's serves up award-winning flavors you'll love. Family-owned, Carver's is all about fresh, made in-house dishes served daily. Come visit us at 2716 Groveland in Godfrey, or give us a call at 618-467-9999. Order online, get it catered, or stop by for the best smoked meats around. Where great flavors meet family tradition, you'll find Carver's Barbecue.
Since 1993, Sparks Junk Removal is always adapting to the needs of our clients. That is why we now offer weekly trash pickup for selected areas. Plus, we offer driveway-safe rubber-tired dumpster rental. Give us a call today at 618-781-1407 or visit us at sparksjunkremoval.net.
You're listening to Our Daily Show with CJ Nasello on RiverBender.com.
We're gonna take a trip across the sea. Everybody come along with me. We're gonna hit the bank down in Cape Paris.
Welcome back, 10:03, top of the hour, Daily Show on a Friday. Back with Mary, and we got to talk about strolling.
We'll talk about strolling. We've been talking about food and beverages, which I love. But we'd like you to also stroll throughout Grafton, and I think our town is looking better and better, and we've got new ADA compliance between Mulberry Street to make people with those needs feel welcome. So do come. You can stroll from one end to the other if you've got the stamina. But one of the things we're trying to do this year is that while you're strolling, we'd like you to stop in and visit our retail shops. And to encourage that, when you check in and get that wristband and get ready to go out and stroll, we're going to also hand you a bag with that logo on it. And in that bag will be something from all those retail shops.
Wow.
Sometimes it'll be maybe a % off. Maybe it'll be just information about what they have. I've not said there's anything that you have to put in there, but you'll have a bag to do your strolling and your purchasing.
Wow.
So
that's really cool, though. I like the incentive there.
Well, I hope it's an incentive for people. In the last little over a year, we now have a Grafton Art Gallery that is all local and regional artists. It's an exciting place.
It's beautiful. They do a good job down there.
Isn't it? And just really highlighting people that have so talented in our area.
Oh, for sure.
We've got several new gift shops, Wicked Sisters, Grafton Limestone, The Cox Mercantile are all pretty new to most of us, but there's old standbys like the gift shop at the marina. And don't forget Naughty by Nature.
Right.
Naughty by Nature has new owners.
Really?
And they are really looking to keep that old thing of go in there and pick out a big piece of wood and make it into something. But they also are upping their artists. They're, those people who use wood to create art. There will be more artisans on display at Naughty by Nature.
I'm telling you, I do that all the time with them too. I can't say nothing fast when it comes to that store, but when did they get new owners?
At the first of the year.
Wow, I did not realize that.
I was in talking to them about putting something in the bag a couple days ago, and it's amazing that they're now have divided where all the wood is with the dust that wood does and the more retail products in the front.
Wow.
So it has a different feel, but it's the same. So
that's really cool. So an update, like a refresh.
Yes.
That's awesome.
But, don't forget to go up to Grafton Winery. They not only, have the food and beverages, but they have a really good gift shop.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably forgetting someone, but I think you'll see there's new and there's old. And it's a good way to stroll and have a little time between your beverages.
That's the most important part too. Pace yourself quite literally by walking around and really just enjoying. And if you're just tuning, this is the day before Mother's Day. Treat your mom to a really nice, I think a great gift. Go ahead and get tickets for this. And if you're the husband, partner, whoever in the life, the special person, I think that's when you call Aries and get a hotel room and just say, go walk around and have as much fun as you want. And don't worry about getting home.
Then don't forget that Aries not only is participating with their food and beverage, but they have a really good gift shop and it will be participating.
Oh, cool. That's really cool.
So I'm hoping that makes people's day even more special. And now if we can just get the weather to cooperate, we'll really have a good day. But I found that people around here participate even, we know it's Illinois and spring. We do it.
Spring is definitely Illinois, know?
Well, good way to put it.
That's right. This is Saturday, May the 10th, 11 a.m. until 5:30 p.m. And now ticket sales close on May 5?
They do. Thank you for noticing that. Remember, we have to give the businesses heads up. So get to your computer right now and buy your tickets. And we'll be ready for you on the 10th.
GraftonILChamber.com. That's GraftonILChamber.com. And then while I have you too, let's talk a little bit about music in the park.
Good, great, because it's expanded from, I think, a couple of years ago, it was 7. We're going to have 14 concerts this summer. They're always on Thursday night. They start on May 29th.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I think is exciting is that the first concert will be a band called Starlifter, and they're from Scott Air Force Base.
Wow.
So you can be able to sit in the Grove Memorial Park with a group from Scott Air Force Base, and right across the street behind you is that magnificent American flag, 40 by 80 foot flying.
That's just amazing. And that's the biggest, isn't it? And
up and down the Mississippi River, yes.
That's what I thought. I always want to make sure I see how I do that. I fish that fact out just so that way Mary can finish it up for me.
This man does his own work.
So May, what date was that?
May 29th will be the first concert.
We're getting close.
We are getting very close. And at those of you that have been there know there is a 50-50 raffle.
Mm-hmm.
And the proceeds from that raffle that the chamber collects go directly into a flag fund. Mm-hmm. Because when we have winds like we've had this year, and think about that, how long a flag lasts in those kinds of winds. So we are constantly repairing those flags.
Well, and too, that's a pretty big flag.
But it's a very serious commitment on the part of the chamber to keep that flag flying.
It's really cool. I really do. I think that's one of my favorite parts of what you guys do is the upkeep of that, because it's beautiful.
There's a flag crew of guys, and they're guys because I guess I could go down and help, but it would probably fling me into the river.
Yeah, I bet it would. It's a lot.
But we have the flag crew that is down there putting it up, taking it down. And not only then, but when you've come to Grafton on any holiday, there's flags all over Grove Memorial Park.
And it really does look beautiful every time, too. Yep. And with that being said, you said there's 14 this year?
14 concerts. Thursday night, starting at 7 o'clock. And if you get up in the morning on July and you think it is so hot, I can't go sit outside, I have to tell you, I don't know. I think it's a miracle, but that there is a hollow leading up out of the park, and about 4:30, a breeze comes down that hollow, and it's nice in the park.
Wow.
I don't know why. I'm not a meteorologist, but do come and give it a try, even if it's hot.
And that just shows you how much everyone wants music in the park to go on.
Yes.
And it's really just a great addition to what you all do throughout the summer months and Grafton, and then throughout the fall now, too, with being, extended. And going back into Sip, Sample, and Stroll, it is coming down the pipeline, folks. The 5th annual, Saturday, May the 10th, and indulge in an afternoon of flavors, charming strolls throughout Grafton, and just have some fun with the family. Bring the mom out, enjoy it, and tickets at graftonilchamber.com.
And we welcome all males also.
Very good point. Is there anything else we should talk about before I say goodbye?
Have you got a minute?
Yeah.
A total different thing?
Yeah.
Our Historical Society, in addition to their quarterly meetings, has a program in each meeting. And our meeting this Sunday at 1:30, the program will feature Bill Eiseminger, who is with the Kokia Archaeological Society.
Wow.
And he is going to be telling us about the indigenous people of our area, and especially how many people have been out in this area and found an arrowhead, found what looks like an axe head. And he'll be there to talk about these people, the artifacts they've left, and what that can tell us about their culture.
Wow.
So that will be at our visitor center on Sunday at 1:30. So thanks for letting me talk a little about that.
This Sunday?
This Sunday.
Wow. Oh, how many seats are is this limited on seating?
There's no charge. The room holds comfortably 45 to 50. Sometimes people stand in the hall. So that's the limit. But while you're there, please go in and take a look at our museum. We have a new artifact, which working to probably early teens Victrola.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I got a little lesson in how to run it.
Wow.
It takes 78 records. You wind it up, pick up the cartridge holder, the little metal needle, and drop it on, gently put it onto the record.
Mm-hmm.
And it is amazing the sound that comes out of this Victrola. So,
wow, that's cool.
It'll be being demonstrated on Sunday before our meeting. So there's an added attraction, but it'll be there all the time.
That's really cool. Well, Mary, thanks for filling me in on all this. We got a lot of stuff out there for the people today.
Well, what we keep trying to talk about is what brings people to Grafton, and it's a whole variety of things. So from our history museum to boating to fishing to shopping to eating to drinking, we want you to visit Grafton.
Absolutely. And Mary, thank you so much as always for stopping by and chatting with me.
I always love to talk.
Oh man, I'm telling. We always have fun too, and that's a good thing. We'll link everything in an article on RiverBender.com. We'll take a quick break. Sydney will come down and join us next right after a few commercials. You stay there, and I'll stay here in the studio on RiverBender.com and Roku TV. Welcome back, Daily Show, top of the hour news on this Monday morning. 64 degrees. Lenny Kravitz coming down to St. Louis for the Evolution Music Festival. I'm excited for that. Sublime's it's going to be a good old time. Hey, while I have you, make sure you download the RiverBender.com app. You can never miss out on all of the work the team's doing upstairs, truly keeping you informed. We will start our top of the hour news with breaking news just moments ago. Dan Brandon is our content director, and he does have this story for us. 2 motorcyclists were involved in a crash on State Highway 100 westbound near Pere Marquette State Park on Sunday, April the 13th, resulting in 1 fatality and 1 serious injury. Jersey County Sheriff Nick Mans reported that 2 men were traveling when they went off the roadway. A 55-year-old man was pronounced deceased at the scene, while a 29-year-old man was flown from the scene with additional injuries. Mann said the Illinois State Police will be providing further details about the incident as this investigation does continue. But breaking just a few moments ago, this fatal crash on Sunday near Pere Marquette State Park did result in that 1 fatality for the 55-year-old male driver and 1 serious injury. Jersey County Sheriff Nick Mans reported that the 2 men were traveling together when they went off the roadway. A 55-year-old man was pronounced deceased at that scene, while a 29-year-old man was flown from the scene with injuries. Mann said the Illinois State Police will be providing further details once again about the incident as this investigation continues. Also in the news today, on March the 21st, the Calhoun County Sheriff's Office responded to a disturbance and property damage incident at a residence on High Street in Campsville. Following a thorough investigation, which included collecting evidence and interviewing witnesses, authorities arrested 54-year-old Lori Ross. She faces charges of disorderly conduct for making 2 false reports to 911. Ross taken into custody without incident and later released with a notice to appear at the Calhoun County Courthouse, and we'll keep you updated if more details do emerge. Also in the news today, authorities are still investigating that serious 2-vehicle crash that occurred at the intersection of Route 159 and Rankin Road on the 7th of April. A 22-year-old female driver from Collinsville was westbound on Rankin when her black Buick was struck on the passenger side by a southbound white GMC truck driven by a 39-year-old male from Dorsey. The Buick driver suffered serious injuries and was flown to a regional hospital for further treatment, while a 21-year-old male was pronounced deceased at the scene. And that takes us to our next news story this morning of James Jimmy Militello, a 21-year-old Godfrey resident who was known for his warmth and kindness and tragically lost his life in that car accident on the 7th of April. The Godfrey Meat Market, where he was a cherished employee, closed at noon on the 12th of April to honor his memory. Ian Warford, a representative from the market, praised Militello, stating he embodied a good soul and was deeply loved by all. Described as a proud big brother, James was remembered fondly by family and friends who expressed their grief. RiverBender.com sends our heartfelt condolences to the family and friends as well. Also in the news today, firefighters responded to a structure fire early Saturday morning in the 500th block of State Street in Wood River. Upon arrival, the Wood River Fire Department encountered heavy smoke coming from this residence, and a boxer alarm was requested, leading to the assistance of neighboring departments. Fire Chief Wade Stallhut commended the quick response, stating the mutual aid was crucial in tackling this blaze, which originated in a bedroom and spread to 2 additional rooms and the attic. 1 occupant evacuated but required treatment for smoke inhalation. The cause of the blaze currently under investigation. The iMerge Community Center, located right inside the RiverBender building, has officially closed, leaving that gap for the young community. Director Bridget Holt expressed gratitude for the community's support, highlighting the center's role as a vital space for youth engagement. John Moeller, a co-owner of the RiverBender building, aims to maintain the space as a community-focused venue for all ages. Holt announced that some equipment from their esports programs will be donated to local nonprofits. Former operator of the community center, John Hendrick, laminated the closure in hopes for the emergence of similar service to Alton's youth. And I read that word wrong in both newscasts. That's a look at what's happening around the Riverbend on this Monday morning. Let's take a look at weather. It's getting colder out there. Just wanting to throw that out there. 60 degrees right now, and it feels like 65. Not too bad. Today it will become windy and cooler, then some sun and clouds mixed in this afternoon. Tonight, mainly clear and cooler. It will be breezy later on. Air quality right now is moderate, and man, it is a Claritin day. Air quality is at 59, which is moderate. Grass levels moderate. Mold is low. Ragweed's moderate, and the tree levels are high. So is the UV index. Temperatures will reach 63 degrees today. I think they already did. Drop down to 42 overnight as we head into Tuesday. On Tuesday, a high of 61, a low of 35 degrees, partly sunny skies. On Wednesday, the 16th, a high of 65, a low of 51 degrees. No rain in the forecast. However, on Thursday, there's chances of thunderstorms, a high of 72, a low of 60 degrees. And on Friday, partly sunny skies, a high near 80 almost, and a low of 55 degrees. That's a look at the next 5 days. Here's what's happening now. It's 60 degrees at 10:17 for time and temperature throughout the day. 618-465-4545. This time powered by Bounce Back, Rehab, Recover, and Return Home. All right, while I still have you, let me fill you in on another great partner of ours. You know, I really am excited to have these conversations with Centerstone and really not even just learning, just about the substance use treatment programs, which we did last year, but we're learning so much more about what Centerstone is doing for youth and their families, and really making sure that everybody that's a part of your home has the best mental well-being they most possibly can. I mean, who wouldn't want that? You know, I think, so many times we get stuck in those ruts, right? And it's so hard to get out of them. And then especially if you're involved in that family dynamic and it drains on people and it becomes a snow globe effect. And what I think is so fascinating about Centerstone is hearing how they have this family-centered approach where if you're an individual, like when it came to learning about the Castle program the other day, and we were learning about some of the things that Centerstone does for the children that are diagnosed with autism and how they bring in that whole family and they make sure that everyone's on the same page and life's looking good. And it's no different than, substance use disorder treatment as well. What I think's great about Centerstone too is they're a national leader, not just here locally, nationally, when it comes to mental health and substance use disorder treatment for people of all ages. They have a dedicated staff that's truly is there to change people's lives, and what I think's so important about this is they're always constantly evolving. They have evidence-based practices in their treatment program, so the recovery care plan is developed for you, and it's based on the latest science. Listen, we got to get past this thing that addiction can't happen to us. Addiction can happen to anybody, but here's the good thing. So can recovery. So whenever you're ready, it could be today, it could be tomorrow if you're who I'm talking to. I highly encourage you to start working on that recovery today by going to centerstone.org and just seeing all of the wonderful programs they have, or if you know somebody that could be going down that path. It's always great to have this information ahead of time until you need to know it. You can go to centerstone.org or just call 1-877-HOPE-123. That's 1-877-HOPE-123 or centerstone.org, and don't forget to tell them that you know who sent you over their way. We'll take a quick break. Here's Downtown Alton, and we'll come back with more Daily Show. You stay there, I'll stay here.
We're gonna hit the night down and get married. All over the world, everybody got the word. Everybody everywhere is gonna feel tonight.
Get access to care for anyone, anywhere, at any time. No appointments, no waiting rooms, no traveling. OSF on call.
Village Dispensary has the best deals in Godfrey, Illinois with specials 5 days a week. Mondays roll in the week with 20 to 30% off select pre-rolls. Tasty Tuesdays, enjoy 20 to 30% off select edibles. Waxy Wednesdays, enjoy 20 to 30% off select concentrate and vape brands. Thirsty Thursdays, sip and save with 20 to 30% off all drinks. Flower Friday, grab select 3.5 gram flower deals starting at just $20. Village Dispensary, come meet your best buds.
Picture This and More has been a trusted name in the Alton community for more than 30 years, with the last 3 being right here on Broadway. We specialize in quality framing at affordable prices. We also feature works by local artists because we're proud of our community. If you have valued treasures to display and preserve, we're sure to have the perfect fit with our large selection of custom framing and display options. Whatever color, shape, or size, Picture This and More has the look you need. Stop by today and let us help you with your next project.
Looking for the best barbecue in Madison County? Head over to Carver's Barbecue in Godfrey, Illinois. From loaded barbecue nachos to mouth-watering pulled pork, brisket, ribs, and more, Carver serves up award-winning flavors you'll love. Family-owned, Carver's is all about fresh, made in-house dishes served daily. Come visit us at 2716 Groveland in Godfrey, or give us a call at 618-467-9999. Order online, get it catered, or stop by for the best smoked meats around. Where great flavors meet family tradition, you'll find Carver's Barbecue.
You're listening to Our Daily Show with CJ Nasello on RiverBender.com.
Everybody said you're so good. They couldn't see it, they just didn't understand. And looking in the mirror, they were fools at either hand.
Welcome back. 10:23, a little bit of change. Hey, coming down the pipeline, the third of 3. We're here. Free spiritual experience series, Raise Your Spiritual IQ, is coming back to Riverbend Yoga on Thursday, May the 1st at 1 p.m. And this time, soul travel exploration.
Yeah, explorating. Yeah. Sounds intense, but it's easy and it's great.
Well, and we got Chuck and Shelia in the studio. Chuck, first time in here. How are you doing, man?
It is doing great. Thank you for having us.
Well, Sheila's out and living in L.A. with my best old ex-friend Ray. You know, or Flora is Sheila. I'm still waking up today, but we've had a great time talking about these things, and really just a really enlightening conversation each and every time. And coming up on Thursday, May the 1st, you're our soul, internal creative atom of God, and discover the wonder of you. What does this kind of encapsulate?
Go ahead.
Well, soul travel is a unique experience that each of us can have. We're soul, okay? We're not just this physical body that we're in right now. We're in a physical universe experiencing many different things, but ultimately we're meant to learn to find our way back to God.
Yeah.
And we are sparks of God. We are an atom, and we are divine in that we can connect with divine love, which emanates from God and flows back to God. And soul travel is that experience of finding your way to travel back in consciousness and find that higher awareness.
And what does that look like? Just for somebody who, isn't too experienced in this yet, what does that look like for you?
Well, for instance, I would say that as early as when I was 12 years old, I had soul travel experiences, and I had no idea what that was about. I would feel myself begin to focus in as I was going to sleep, and it felt like the bed fell out from under me, and I had a sudden rush, an experience of heading into a starry universe with a bright light at the far end of it. And it was just this amazing thing that continued to happen to me again and again. And I knew nothing about Eckankar, which is sponsoring this IQ series at that time. And it wasn't until much later that I began to realize that that experience I was having, it was exactly what was described within these teachings.
Well, and that's fascinating because at 12 years old, that's got to be kind of a little alarming when that first, I mean, you could be 55 years old and it's still going to be alarming when that happens. How did you kind of mentally deal with that, not knowing what it is?
Well, the thing is, it was filled with such love when it happened.
Yeah.
It wasn't a frightful experience for me, like I was being cast out of my body. I mean, that,
Gotcha.
In a way, people say that they have near-death experiences when they may be in a hospital and be under surgery and they die, or they're in an accident and they're knocked out and they find themselves outside of their body.
Yeah.
Well, that was the same kind of experience I had.
And it's probably kind of, pleasant, like with me, I would, often find myself just laying in bed, and this whole starry thing was just always a theme with me as a youth, but I didn't know what it was, but it wasn't frightening. It was, I felt protected. I felt loved, but it could be, some things are really dramatic and you're,
Yeah.
Yeah. And really, it just reaffirmed to me that I was eternal. I was not just my physical body. I was this eternal spark. And so I knew that from an early age. But I didn't have a definition of where to go with it at that point.
What is it really? And it's really just an expansion of consciousness. It's like we live in this world, so we're aware of this world, but we become more and more aware through these soul travel experiences and figure out our part in this whole universe as opposed to just this thing here,
Well, and see, that's where I find this fascinating because it seems like that's where you can really see some immense growth in your personal and spiritual and really any aspect of your life. You know what I mean? It just seems like that to me would be the stamp of, you're building and moving forward this way.
Yeah, soul travel is really the vehicle getting you to that point where you are touching the divine. You are experiencing Holy Spirit, or what we call the Ek, which emanates from God. And by connecting with that, you gain direct truth and divine knowledge and expansion of your own consciousness and what that means to you in this physical world around us and what it means to you as soul. Like you're timeless and eternal. So you're in this life. And as some of the past sessions you've had talked about past lives and dreams. But we have been here many times before. We have reincarnated, and we in a way, they say that many people are still asleep in this world because you don't understand that inner truth that's within you. Yeah. You are gaining experience in this world, which is a classroom. It is not meant to be heaven on earth. It is a place of many challenges and many wonders, but at times frightening and hard to deal with. And you're wondering, what is this all about? And it's when you begin to actually ask within yourself, what is this about? How do I expand myself? How do I gain that knowledge of what I truly am and what is my purpose? Yeah. Then you can just kind of wander around life and not really know what's going on.
Well, and see, that's where I think, especially in my generation, you're seeing a lot of younger people that are really kind of having that same problem. And it's not just a generational thing. So many people do too. And you just kind of see it, and you see there's no light in them. There's not that spark. Yeah. And it's really fascinating to see somebody who really does understand who they are and has that relationship with themselves and spiritually, because it's a whole different ballgame, and it's like the weight of the world's lifted off someone's shoulders once that happens.
Yeah, it's like physical exercise.
Yeah,
you have to nurture it. You do daily what we call spiritual exercises, which are offered in an incredible booklet that we'll have available with the free books available at the thing on May 1st. Mm-hmm. But these spiritual exercises are meant to strengthen your connection with God, increase your ability to bring that divine love into your life and into the world around you.
Well, and on top of that, too, it seems like, for so many people that are confused, or you never know what happens in life, or maybe you're just having some tough mental times, it's stressful, you're anxious, you got all these things going on. A lot of that, I feel like, can help be mended with a spiritual journey like this, because you truly understand and identify yourself.
Right. And you figure out more of, like what Chuck said, who you really are. I'm not just, I'm not just Chuck, I'm not just Sheila, I'm not just CJ. I'm more than that. I am a spark of God. And where do I fit in this, play, this little play that we have going on? And, when you expand your consciousness, you figure out, okay, I might have done this because, or I need to know more about this because it's affecting my life, and it's just these inner little nudges from God that we get.
Well, and whenever you have those and you have that connection, I feel like for so many people, you see all those vices start to leave you too, because you don't need you know who you are, what journey you're a part of. And I think it just really goes overall to having a healthier life, because you aren't worried. You aren't just trying to get through the day, Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, as soul, God gives you free will.
Yeah.
So in this world that we're in, you have free will, but with that comes accountability and responsibility.
Very much so.
So everyone's journey is different in life. I mean, we're all equal souls. I mean, the billions on this earth, we're all equal souls. It's how do you awaken to that spiritual awareness that's deep within you?
Mm-hmm.
And each of us has a different experience because we have taken on different roles and responsibilities through many lifetimes that have, in a way, attached to us with a concept of karma, which is cause and effect, with the reincarnation concept. And you come back to this earth, and you really did sign a contract with God, in a sense, in that you are meant to awaken and become spiritually aware of the world around you and what your purpose is in life and in your relationship, who you are as soul, and your relationship with God. And you bring those experiences back and you begin to work them off. You dissolve that karma.
Right.
And by dissolving the karma, which acts kind of like a gravity, by dissolving the karma, you raise your spiritual consciousness and you begin to experience in the inner truth.
Well, and see, I think that's such an important thing too, that word karma. And we talked about this multiple times, Sheila, but it's, sometimes I think as people, we do a good deed and we expect one in return somewhere down the line, and that's just not how life works.
One of the best things you can do is do something out of love each day, whatever it is, unannounced, pick up a cigarette butt off the ground,
Right.
whatever, serve somebody in some way, pet your dog, and
Right. Because it seems like, when we start to do the good deed because, we need to or we just want to, we are doing that for a different purpose. There's a premeditated purpose because we think, well, if I do this, then of course this is going to happen. Or because, on the flip side of that, because I did this, 25, 30 years, whoever knows how long, I'm never going to be the same. And that goes back to your point, Chuck, about, dissolving that karma and moving forward. And I think it's not even a denominational thing. This is to help strengthen anybody's relationship with God,
Right.
and it's so important.
Yeah, and for people who don't maybe understand the laws of karma, it's, like Jesus said, as you sow, so shall you reap. Whatever you're putting out, it's going to come back.
Yeah.
And it's, and it's an exacting science, which, is sometimes a frightening proposal. But, you don't want to dwell on that. You want to move forward, with your life and be patient with yourself.
Yeah.
I've done this, but, I'm changing now. I'm willing to move forward and recognize myself as a spark of God.
Oh, yeah. And that's, something we've talked about because, I had quite a few years of fun and all of that and definitely bit off a lot more than I could chew and lost a business along all the things you could do. And, for years it was hard because that's what I kind of did is sat there and reevaluated. It's like, here's where you're at. Here's how you got there. Now, how can we keep moving forward and who are you? And I think if you answer all those questions, then eventually you realize you lay that cross down to bear and you're moving forward, so to speak, just to kind of connect the audience a little bit more to that.
Yeah. And you can say in a sense there are no bad experiences.
No,
I mean,
no.
You have experiences and you learn from that and you begin to grow. Once you open yourself up to concentrating your efforts towards finding yourself in spirit, then that is when the real benefits begin to happen. It doesn't necessarily take away those things from you. You're still responsible and accountable for the things that have happened.
100%.
And so you learn to dissolve that, but then you're able to bring that love, you're like a beam of light into the world, and it just helps to uplift. And that's just one of the purposes.
Yeah, and I think that the soul travel experiences and the really digging deeper is what helps you figure out for you, for CJ, for Sheila. What do I need to do next to move myself forward spiritually? Because my goal, and one of the goals of Eckankar is to move closer to God and to understand more your place in this, these worlds,
Well, and that's such a, for somebody that's maybe newer to that experience, it is frightening, because it could be because you're going back and you're really, given that microscope look a little bit, and you're finding out things about yourself or maybe your thought like you would never have had before if you didn't have these discussions. So what is your advice for somebody, maybe they're new to this, they're watching the segments, or they're kind of just interested about really discovering who they are? What's the initial period look like for them, and what's the advice you could give them?
Well, it's certainly unique for each person.
Yeah.
Because you have developed these karmic ties over decades, eons, decades in this life, but in past lives. So you don't need to be in a rush, so to speak. But the best thing to do is to practice every day, looking for that, strengthening that inner connection. And in this booklet we have, on raising your spiritual IQ, there are several spiritual exercises that are discussed that help to begin the imaginative process for you to be able to reach out and begin to expand your consciousness and the awareness of the many worlds that are within you. And from a broad prospect, it's amazing. It's almost like you're a spiritual warrior. You're on a hero's journey in a sense. Every one of us is. Mm-hmm. At some point in this life or another life, you are going to wake up. You're going to realize that this world is never going to be what I would want it to be. And I have a truer purpose, and that is to make my way back to God. And so by doing the spiritual exercises, you begin to open your awareness. It can take a week, 4 weeks, it could take longer, and everyone's experience is going to be unique. But you'll gain a tremendous sense of love at a minimum that just begins to flow into you, and it begins to level you out. Yeah. You begin to learn to surrender to God and God's will in a sense that begins to unwind the nervousness and anxiety that we may all feel in today's society. It puts you on a path.
It does, and that whole thing about, God's will, not my will. God knows far better what I need in my life than I have, a clue of,
100%.
And as far as, where to start, like Chuck said, the spiritual exercises are a great way to start. And we've talked about the hue, which is a love song to God. And you can sing it like that, and taking the time out every day, like you would for a physical exercise, to sing the hue, to connect with God in your own way. If you connect with God through prayer or, meditation, whatever it is, but taking the time, I think, and being patient with yourself. We can't get the big eraser on and go, I'm going to be done with this and this and this, or else, you find yourself flat somewhere going, wow, that was hard.
Well, it's so important, though, because you could be a millionaire at 25 and traveling the world, but when you're 65 and 70 and 80 years old, you're eventually going to have those conversations. It's never going to go away, and I think so many times, especially younger people, we do as much as we can, and middle-aged people do too, is you do as much as you can to kind of just put the blinders on. Life's good. Here's my routine, and we're sticking to it. And then eventually you realize it will come back to you, and you're going to have the conversation eventually, And I think that's such an important point, too, for maybe folks that are kind of curious about this.
Yeah, and I think, that recognizing that place that you find yourself in, like you said, is huge, and it helps us move forward. It helps us know that, this is not where I want to be, this is not my intent. I would love to be more of myself. And those things come to us through, dreams and these soul travel experiences. I know a big turning point in my life was I was only 15 when my oldest brother died. And he had polio and some developmental disabilities. And so I was kind of always his protector, and he died quickly. He was only 23, I think. And I said, I kind of said to God, this doesn't seem right. I'd like to know a little bit more about it. I ask in my own young way, what's going on here. And I walked up to this little dairy by the house, and I was sitting there, because Jimmy always liked to go there. And I look up, and I didn't realize it at the time, but in retrospect, I was out of my body, and I see my brother, and he's riding around in the back of this black hot rod that his friend owned, that he loved cars. Anyway, so he's riding around, and And I'm like, Jimmy, you can't, you're dead. He goes, no, I'm good. He said, I am dead, but I'm good. And, and then like the door closed and I was like, what was that? And you share that with a parent and they're like, yeah, whatever.
Right.
But, it was, for me, it showed me that there's more than just this life. He was happy, he was healthy, he was doing what he loved to do, and he wasn't like that in this, in this world. He was,
Right.
Anyway. But it was an incredible experience, and it made me start my journey on figuring out, what's really real.
That's incredible.
It was incredible.
That's just incredible.
Yeah, because it was a conversation like we're having here, and I was just like,
wow.
Yeah.
I mean, like I just absolutely takes the words out of your mouth, And why don't we do this? We'll take a quick break because I got to pay a bill, and we'll come back with more of this conversation and learn more about Thursday, May the 1st, over there at Riverbend Yoga. You are soul and eternal, creative atom of God, and you can discover the wonder of you with Soul Travel Explorations, Part 3 of the 3-part series. More next.
Get access to care for anyone, anywhere, at any time. No appointments, no waiting rooms, no traveling. OSF on call.
Village Dispensary has the best deals in Godfrey, Illinois, with specials 5 days a week. Mondays roll in the week with 20 to 30% off select pre-rolls. Tasty Tuesdays, enjoy 20 to 30% off select edibles. Waxy Wednesdays, enjoy 20 to 30% off select concentrate and vape brands. Thirsty Thursdays, sip and save with 20 to 30% off all drinks. Flower Friday, grab select 3.5 gram flower deals starting at just $20. Village Dispensary, come meet your best buds.
Picture This and More has been a trusted name in the Alton community for more than 30 years, with the last 3 being right here on Broadway. We specialize in quality framing at affordable prices. We also feature works by local artists because we're proud of our community. If you have valued treasures to display and preserve, we're sure to have the perfect fit with our large selection of custom framing and display options. Whatever color, shape, or size, Picture This and More has the look you need. Stop by today and let us help you with your next project.
Looking for the best barbecue in Madison County? Head over to Carver's Barbecue in Godfrey, Illinois. From loaded barbecue nachos to mouth-watering pulled pork, brisket, ribs, and more, Carver's serves up award-winning flavors you'll love. Family-owned, Carver's is all about fresh, made in-house dishes served daily. Come visit us at 2716 Groveland in Godfrey, or give us a call at 618-467-9999. Order online, get it catered, or stop by for the best smoked meats around. Where great flavors meet family tradition, you'll find Carver's Barbecue.
You're listening to Our Daily Show with CJ Nasello on RiverBender.com.
Welcome back, 10:45, a little bit of change. Back with Chuck and Sheila. Coming up on Thursday, May the 1st at 1 p.m., It's the Soul Travel Explorations portion of the free spiritual experience series, Raise Your Spiritual IQ, and really Eckankar doing a great job of, helping put these events on and really just helping people gain a better understanding of themselves. And during this hour, what are we going to learn on Thursday? What are those conversations going to look like?
Well, I've shared before that I love hearing people's stories, and at our last presentation, there were several new people, and they shared, their experience and their questions, and it's a great place for listening, because you'll have people who are, members of Eckankar, or spiritual students, if you will, and then you'll have, people of all walks of life, and I love, listening and seeing them connect the dots with what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's great to just share these experiences with each other and see if something really strikes a chord.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when you begin your inner explorations with using spiritual exercises, you're proving it to yourself. It's a direct experience. Yeah. There's nothing we can say that's going to convince you that these inner worlds exist within you. You have to want it. You have to desire it. You have to ask for that experience and take it before you go to bed, into your dreams. Look for a jumping off point that is going to spark that within you.
Well, and see, I think that's a fascinating conversation to have too, because sometimes, I feel like people ask for things, or people want things, and it could not, saying it's going to be winning the lottery tomorrow, because that's just unrealistic. But, maybe it's, finding, happiness, or I want this to happen next week, or I want that big promotion at work. And do you guys feel, and this is just an open-ended question, that can you ever receive that if you aren't truly honest and understand who you are spiritually? Because I feel like you really can't connect those dots until you really understand who you are. But I'm just curious to see what you guys think about that.
Well, certainly life is intended to give you, it's a school of hard knocks at times.
Yeah.
So sometimes there's sorrow, sometimes there's great happiness. All of those experiences you have, whether it's getting a new job, losing a job, losing a loved one, it makes you question. It's many times it can be the pain in life that makes you want to go deeper to try and find the inner truths. And that's when you should explore. That's when you should be a seeker. If you're a seeker, you should come to these series, because it's true. If you're looking for something that wasn't ever explained to you, that you had experiences with, just like when I had those experiences at 12 years old of going through great distances through starry universes. My parents couldn't answer that. My preacher couldn't answer. I mean, they were looking at me like, well, he's got something going on.
Right.
I'm not sure what it is.
Right.
And this is the kind of forum that will help you explore those things and realize you're not alone. You know from a direct experience that, wow, I'm eternal. I mean, this is, when I die, that's nothing. I mean, I have a saying of, I die daily. I mean, I'm doing spiritual exercises and leaving my body, not always remembering them, but coming back with this immense sense of love and gratitude for everything around me. And that's what the spiritual exercises are meant to do.
Yeah, and you never want to guide the exercise.
Right.
And it just is, it goes back to God's will. You want to say, if it's for the good of the whole, then may I find love, or,
right.
And then you leave it, or you take your responsibility, your role in it. What can I do to better myself, to understand, and you have to start out with loving yourself.
Right.
That's where it always starts. You love God, you love yourself, and then you can love others. So
100%. And that's why I'm so excited to be talking with you guys about these series, because it all goes back hand in hand to that. I mean, the way these are structured was really kind of perfectly done and produced, because, the past lives and the present lessons is a great first step, but also, the true dream worlds, and seeing, where those dreams are and what those signs are. And also now putting that together with soul travel, it seems like this is really that perfect way to introduce people to what, these free spiritual experiences are, number one, but also what Eckankar's kind of is all about, and really the spiritual journey as a whole, too.
Yeah, and we're just, trying to raise people's spiritual IQ, to understand a little bit more about what's really going on, like I said.
Hey, hold on. You guys don't think I'm not serious. Hold on. I still have all of my books.
Good job. This
one I still have to work on, but these are the ones I've already read from Sheila and Flora.
Wow.
And they work. I promise you, they do work. Sorry, show and tell time's over.
And we didn't pay him to do that at
No,
all.
I know.
I mean, it's been a great growing experience having these conversations with you because you're very inquisitive and you want to change, as we all do. At some point in our lives.
The people don't know this, but I was kind of going through the ringer the last couple of times whenever you guys were first coming on the show, and it was perfect timing because it kind of helped me take a little bit of a pause and reflect a little bit, and then work a little bit more on it because I mean it was not good for a couple of weeks with all the stresses of life, but it all cleared up, and it's those having those conversations and knowing, like you said, Chuck, you aren't alone out there. If you're a seeker, go and be with a group of seekers and figure out and seek the truth because that's really it. And it really did go a lot further for me than you all realized too. So it's kind of perfect timing. It's the universe again and God, huh?
Exactly. And you brought up a really important point. You have to ask. Ask your inner guide, whether it's Jesus or Buddha or with us it's the living Master Harold Clamp. Ask that inner guide. Sincerely with your heart completely open. For whatever you need to grow spiritually. And it'll happen.
Let me ask you this question, and this is a hard question, I think, to answer, or maybe it's a very simple one, and it just doesn't need to be that, diluted. But whenever you're asking those things, and whenever you're trying to put that out there, how important is it for you to truly understand what you're asking for? And that it seems like because to me, I feel like, especially with younger people and all that, we want X, Y, and Z, but we don't realize, like you talked about karma earlier, the cause and effect of wanting certain things. And what's the best practice, do you think, to kind of understand and identify if it's truly a want, if it's truly a need, or if it's actually just a want or anything else?
Well, that's a really good question. I mean, I would simply define it as saying, if you want love in your life, okay, if you want God's love, then you just simply ask for a divine love or presence to come into your life, and let it be. Don't try to guide what your experience needs to be. I mean, God is going to bring you everything that you need in experience in life, and just open yourself up with trying to be a pure channel for spirit, and let that flow through you. And then the magic is going to happen. It's going to go around with you. And even like we said, you're not alone in this world, but there are spiritual travelers and masters, and some people call them angels. I mean, there are divine presence for each of us out there to help guide us. And Eckankar teaches you that. I mean, I was in my bed as a youngster at 12 to 14, and I began having experiences of waking up in my astral body, and there was a master there who was reading a book to me and explaining things. I cannot tell you exactly what it was, but probably 5 years down the road is when I found my first book on Eckankar, and it was exactly what he had been reading to me. So I knew, for me, there was absolutely no doubt that of the truth of this kind of experience and teaching, but that was just my experience. And so everyone has to go out and find their own truth, and just start with love, ask for the best experience you can have, and let God provide.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and you also, I think imagination sometimes comes in getting that off that starting block. I want to have this spiritual experience. I want to have a soul travel experience. So you have to start somewhere with what you know. You might find yourself in your kitchen, with your eyes closed, and go into the living room and recognize the chair. And, you start with familiar things. And then when you find yourself in these other worlds, you're not as amazed. You're not as sometimes scared, but not really, because I always feel protected.
That's what I was going to ask you too, because, out of all of this, I'm sure it comes to a point, and it has with me, I told you about this too. There's a fear, and it's a lot of times, I don't want to say irrelevant, because I don't feel like anyone's fear is irrelevant, because it all is matter of fact to them. But, we decide, hey, I'm going to do this. I want to explore who I am, but there's this fear of, well, what if, number one, I don't like that person? Number two, what if it's, I'm off to the wrong start? What if I manipulated myself into creating believing these certain aspects of what I want? And what if it all fails? What if I'm doing this for nothing? And that's where I think this conversation is interesting, because what's your just sentiment for folks that maybe are kind of fearful about going through and exploring this and discovering some things?
Well, I would say you should never be fearful about finding love. Okay, no one's trying to manipulate you in what's we're putting out there.
Right.
It's simply one of sincerely ask for love, surrender yourself to God, and look for the experiences to come. And when that direct truth and experience comes to you, it's going to change the color of your entire world, because you're going to be looking at it through a different lens. You're going to see it from the perspective of an eternal force and guidance that exists deep within inside you. All you have to do is find the key to unlock that puzzle box.
Very interesting.
Yeah, and to really take responsibility again, it's like that's what you shared. We have to take responsibility for our own spiritual growth in whatever way you see fit. And I don't think there's any wrong thing to do. You can plead with God to win the lottery, and then you can drop dead when you win it.
Right. That's true.
Yeah, be careful what you ask for. You might get it, but it's true. And you talked about specifying or specificity, whatever that word is, what you would like. And then for me, it's like, if it's for the good of the whole,
And if you do those exercises on a regular basis, you're basically, by bringing God's presence within you, you're purifying you, you're cleansing, and you begin to see clearly what is in store for you.
And one final, I guess, just thought on this before we go back to overviewing this event one last time and saying so long for now is, whenever you do that exploration and you go into that, check and balance system and holding yourself accountable, what's your advice for somebody who can't get past the action, if that makes sense? Maybe, and it doesn't have to be anything bad. Maybe it's just one of those things where they just can't shake the thought of it, or they can't shake the feeling. What's your advice to those people, and how do you combat that?
You mean get past the action?
Like just an action of, like I look back and let's say I did something, 7 years ago, and I just I didn't like the way I was, and I made some people feel bad. And this isn't a real thing. It's just kind of me coming up with a hypothetical just for the audience. And it's getting past that final, man, you did this to people. You know what I'm saying? How do you get past that final hurdle of, you acknowledged it, you took accountability, you know what you did was terrible, wrong or whatever happened, but you just can't, it seemed to get past that final lay the cross down moment. And I hate to keep going back to that, but that's just what we kind of all know that term of. Mm-hmm. Is there any advice that you have for people like that? Is there more exploring to do then? Is that what that means?
For me, you always want to move forward. You never want to dwell in the past. You can glance at it and go, yeah, that was me then, but here I am now. I'm wanting to move forward. In whatever baby step you can, move forward. Forgive yourself, or write a letter, and maybe not mail it to that person that you wronged. Or, for me, one of my spiritual exercises when I got stuck in my head about not forgiving somebody was to sing forgiveness, whatever, or just to think it, to pray it, whatever way you do it. And it helped me to let go of that problem. Yeah. So we're each unique in what we have going on in our lives, and we want more of divine love. We don't just want, when we talk about love, it's divine love. Right. It's not just physical. It's not physical love.
And that's the most, you have to have that to really live a happy and full life, And Chuck, before we overview this, anything else you wanted to add to what Sheila said?
Well, I think she had a great point. It's hard because all of those things you're talking about are attachments that we have in this world. And you're responsible for eventually dissolving all of those attachments. Yeah. One exercise that comes to mind is one where you take that state of whatever you were in at that time, and that you may not have turned out the way you wanted it to be. You need to go in and basically surrender to spirit itself, and say and picture and begin using your creative imagination to say, this should have turned out differently. And you begin running it like a movie within your mind of it having a better outcome, and asking for forgiveness and God's gratitude. And it will begin to dissolve and work out within your life as it should.
Absolutely. And guys, thank you so much for a great conversation. But before we say goodbye for now, Thursday, May the 1st, you're coming on again, aren't you, before then?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
I think the Monday prior.
That's right. But you can mark your calendars now because a few new additions the last time I heard too, so that's good. And we can keep growing that because I'm telling you, you're going to take something out of it each and every time. The free spiritual experience series, Raise Your Spiritual IQ, Thursday, May the 1st, Riverbend Yoga, right down the road at 100 West 3rd Street. I can't believe I remember their address, but I don't know mine. Soul travel explorations will be the topic of this in about an hour conversation again.
Yeah, and if you want to know a lot more about Eckankar than we've just touched, you can go to eckankar.org, and there's so much on there.
And don't forget that a part of this is getting a free book. This time will be on soul travel exploration.
Not that you can see that. But
and we'll link it. And then the Raise Your
Spiritual IQ.
And that has the work, some of the exercises that we could do as well. And seriously, thank you guys so much for a good Monday morning interview.
Thank you, CJ.
I'm out of time. I hope you guys had a good old day. I know that I had a decent morning too. Easter week off to a good start. I got only 3 more days left to work this week. I'm actually taking Friday off. No Daily Show.
Good deal. Well,
I'll see you tomorrow. Until then, try your best to stay out of jail.